Hi, I'm Jillian Anderson.
And I'm Matt Gross.
And this is Post Race Purgatory, where we judge all things NASCAR. Kicking off the 2016 season, last night was the Sprint Unlimited, which you guys may have used to know as the Bud Shootout.
Yeah, and it was a wreck fest, essentially, is what it turned into. I mean, Denny Hamlin obviously was the winner, but to me, the big story I took out of that was the amount of damaged cars we had, and particularly what I took away from it was the right rear tire failures early in that race between Brian Vickers' second wreck on that 23, and the Ricky Stenhouse wreck as well. And the reason why I think that's so significant is because there were so many other wrecks that were just caused naturally after that we never really got to see a long enough green flag run to tell if this is going to become a problem as the week goes on.
Yeah, between the 75 laps maximum, when we only have 75 laps in the race, we have what would have been a mandatory caution 25 laps in, but that got taken
Ended up becoming the Brian Vickers.
Brian Vickers blowing a tire, and then we just had all these little wrecks that there was no long run to see what these tires would do, and it's very rare for a right rear tire to be the issue there.
Yeah, but it was two of them, which is interesting. Now, the one possibility here, and this is just kind of hypothesizing because, again, we did not see anything long enough. Brian Vickers was working on a wreck before that incident happened, so he may have made contact with somebody else and may have cut the tire so we didn't see it. Maybe the Fox cameras didn't catch it, and then maybe the Stenhouse wreck became the isolated incident. But at the very least, it's something to keep an eye on as we move towards the Twins on Thursday, and especially the Daytona 500 on Sunday. If these right rear tires continue to fail in the Twins, we're going to have an issue next Sunday.
I absolutely agree. It's definitely going to be something to really look into on those long green flag runs, seeing how far these cars pushed it. And I think that's the biggest story, because I think as far as which line went better, I really think that came down to what cars were in the line better. If it was getting up front, it was doable to pass. It was easy to catch the leader. It wasn't that easy to clear them.
That was an interesting wrinkle, wasn't it? And we even saw a wreck late in the race with Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski late in the race, where Edwards got a great run, shot up through the middle, tried to get in front of Keselowski. Less than 10 laps to go, you end up with a wreck there. But it was that same thing as you were mentioning there. It was very, very difficult to clear people at that point and make a pass. And that's kind of what helped Denny Hamlin win the race. He got to the front. Logano kept getting alongside of him. We saw Keselowski up there a couple times. But actually making that pass and then getting a new line to form behind you is what proved to be very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Now, I don't know if that's going to continue when in daylight, in longer green flag runs, in a bigger pack. This race, a lot of times, some years we see themes come out and they just do not play out for the rest of the week. And that may be a case that just doesn't play out the rest of this week. But it's another thing to follow as we move forward. Another topic that we ran into last night was the brand new overtime rule. And this is something that NASCAR has changed, likely as a direct result of the fiasco at Talladega last year, where they would not allow multiple green-white checkers attempts. So the new rule now is you get one attempt at an overtime, one attempt at a two-lap shootout. However, if you do not get to the overtime line, it does not count as an attempt. But the overtime line, in this case, is all the way over on the back straightaway. So it really is now, instead of getting to the white flag lap, completing a whole lap before the next flag ends the race, it's a half a lap before the next flag ends the race.
And I mean, I'm not crazy over this. I don't think it is as bad, because at least this is, if it does not get to that half a lap, the overtime marker rule, it's going to reset as many times as possible. So potentially you could have infinite number of restarts. You could have 5, you could have 6 if we were having a dinky little wreck fest. The way it panned out last night, it would have ended the exact same way under the old standards, because there was a caution that came out after the first lap had been completed. The white flag would have came out. This would have been standard green-white checker. I think we will have cases, though, where there will be wrecks.
Of course, in turn 3 and 4.
In turn 3 and 4. And I think that's going to upset a lot of fans. And I can see that, wanting to see, because we kind of see these, wrecks coming out. It's to prevent essentially what Kevin Harvick did at Talladega last year, where we're going to mandatory pull out this caution and then get it to end because there's only going to be one caution. So I get that ending that's good. I do like that there's a clear overtime line. The thing that I'm just not crazy over Daytona is a big track. So we're not quite sure yet, is this going to be at the same spot
on every track.
On every race. We haven't gotten to see that yet. I'm glad we went to overtime on the Sprint Unlimited.
An exhibition
so
race,
we get to see what was going on. But something like you get as a track like Martinsville, you get as a really small track. And we're talking like that's very little time where something stupid can still happen.
Well, in Martinsville, you've got the leader could be coming off turn 2, the back of the pack still just getting into turn 1. They could right before they even get there.
Exactly.
So
that's what I'm saying, where I feel
worse.
like you need a little bit more time to be able to distinguish that. So I'm not the biggest fan over this overtaking rule. I do like the fact, though, that it's a clear marker because we were getting a lot of drivers complaining about like the restarts on like the green-white checkers going on.
Well, because last year when they introduced it at Talladega and they said it didn't actually count as a restart, that is what really infuriates fans. Well, it didn't count because we said it didn't count as a restart. We didn't have an actual definitive line to say this is where it actually counts as in attempt, as they call it. At least now you have a specific spot on the racetrack that we designate as an attempt. The problem I have here is I don't think this was necessary. I think this is another element where they are over-managing a race. I thought they had a really, really good system in place before Talladega last year. And I know that they wanted to put it in place because they didn't like cars going into the catch fence. Well, I got news for you. Cars are going to go into the catch fence as long as you race at Daytona and Talladega.
Absolutely.
It's just going to happen. The fact that they're coming to checkers is not going to change that.
The fact that we've got the OT line halfway down the track, when people go into those fences, it is usually at the beginning part of the restart when it's going to happen. It's not going to stop that. And even if it happens afterwards because the caution came out, it's not going to stop these big crashes.
It has happened at the checkered flag a couple times with Kyle Larson in the Xfinity Series a couple years ago, and at Austin Dillon in the July race last year. But I think that was purely cool. And even Carl Edwards at Talladega. But just go back to the late 80s and look at the Bobby Allison crash at Talladega that happened very, very early in that race. I mean, these wrecks can happen at any point, and I don't think the fact that you're coming to the checkers changes that. And like I said, you having a 2-lap restart, it still can happen when they come to the checkers. So I don't think this rule fixed anything. I think they just I don't think it's terrible. I just thought that they had a pretty good system in place, and they just added another.
And they just for the sake of changing things. And speaking of changes, there is going to be one other significant change. For the history of NASCAR, it's been very long for very, very long time. You're going to be seeing 3 less drivers on the track. There has been a cut from 43 drivers to 40 drivers, and this is a trickle-down effect of the owners getting some say in the changes that will be happening with NASCAR. There's going to be a little bit of bigger pony prize money by eliminating those 3 spots, and most of it is for the owners' decisions, which I don't think affects the fans as far as the car owners getting some say in what's going to happen. What I think the only thing that you are really going to notice is that there's 40 cars on the racetrack instead of 43.
Yeah, it's been a long, long time. You have to go back to really the mid-1990s where sometimes they would have 36 cars on short tracks and 43 on the big track. So this is really something that we haven't really seen in a generation of NASCAR, which, I mean, it will be an interesting change. I don't love it for the small teams because the bottom line is, with this system, you're going to have 36 guaranteed spots. That's 36 big fish who have a charter who are going to be starting every single race, and that only leaves 4 spots left for the little guys instead of the other 7 there would have been when there were 43 cars in the field. So any way you slice this, it's the little guys who are not going to be starting races, and that's going to hurt them.
I agree with that. And the other thing that's going to be really interesting is right now, these 36 spots, they're bought spots. So what's going to be very interesting looking ahead into the future is to see who buys older spots. You talk about some of the older owners who you don't really know how much longer they're going to be staying in the sport. So let's say Jack Roush were to leave the sport in a few years, anyone could potentially buy any one of his spots for guaranteed position in.
Yeah, or if maybe his teammate could obviously own part by Roush Fenway, so maybe a different ownership group comes in, and who knows if they want to continue to be involved in the baseball and the soccer and the NASCAR, or if they're splitting their priorities too much there. But it will be something interesting to follow. This will be an evolving story over the year. The other thing that I think you're going to see significant that's going to be immediate here, and this is something you're not going to see into the fall, but it's going to be very, very important.
And I think this is going to be good.
Yeah, when you're in the chase, and the way the system is right now, particularly in these 3 race checkpoints where you go through, the way the system is set up right now is if you finish 5th twice and wreck once, you're going to lose to somebody who finishes 12th 3 weeks in a row. And the reason for that is because with this 1 point per position system that NASCAR has and these extremely short checkpoints within the chase getting through each window, is a wreck or an engine failure, anything that puts you in the garage is deadly. But what this will do is it means you're going to be three more points you're not going to lose. Because now, if you wreck and finish 50 laps down, you might finish 34th instead of 37th, or whatever, because the 3 cars that would have been running out to 8 laps down are not going to be there anymore. And those 3 points, as we have seen in these segments, that makes a difference.
To a couple of points. I have seen drivers that I want to advance miss it by a point, miss it by an overtime point, and so it is going to make a difference, and I like that because I personally cannot stand the driver who says, I'm going to sit pretty in 12th, I'm not going to go for it, and I'm just going to squeeze by. I like a driver going for it.
I don't know if any driver says that, but it feels wrong when that team that has not been running as fast as the other teams in any of the 3 weeks and gets through because they didn't wreck because of these extremely small sample sizes within the chase. It's not gonna make a huge difference. It's gonna be very, very small. But all you have to do is look at the history. It comes down to 1, 2, 3 points, and that little bit of difference, that little bit of those couple of extra points, you will not lose because it's not going to be somebody 6, 7, 8 laps down beating a guy who ran in the top 10 all day and then finished 40 laps down because they wrecked in the last 50 miles of the race. It could make a difference.
Yeah, so I mean, overall, we've got some pretty exciting stuff coming up. We're interested to see the rivalries. I'm interested to get into the Daytona 500, which will be premiering this Sunday. We are back with NASCAR, folks. The off season is over, so tune in next week. We post videos every Monday. We'll be reviewing the Daytona 500. In the comments below, let us know, what do you think of the rule changes? Are you excited? Do you think it was unnecessary? And subscribe to our videos so you can see these reviews every week.